to Tuesday night or Thursday night live on YouTube with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you. We'll wait just a few minutes here and see who jumps on. And then we'll get started. Now, hopefully everything is looking good and the sound is good. Let's look here and see what we've got. Turn that sound off before I hit that button. Hello, Tracy. Hello, Laura. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you. All right. Well, we're going to be using some last chance items today, along with some newer items. And we've got quite the array of ink pads. So hopefully you'll enjoy the project. Some of you, I'm sure, already have these items in your possessions, and if not, maybe you'll pick them up on the last chance sale. So the Loveliest tree, we're going to be using this, and it has a set of matching dies, and when I checked earlier today, both items were available. You do not want to purchase this as a bundle. I believe the stamp set was $10 in the last chance list, and the dies were $12, so significantly less than the bundle price. So be sure if you're going to pick that up. I love this tree and these sentiments, that you do so individually. We're also going to be using the Eyelet Blooms die. Hello, Cynthia. Hello, Cher. Uh-oh. You can't hear anything? Okay, let's see. Hang on. Oh, Laura has sound. Okay. Cher can hear too. Okay. Tracy, it must be on your end. Maybe go out, come back in, see if that fixes it. Or maybe there's a little button in the bottom corner of the little, that looks like a little megaphone, and you need to click it so that it will turn the sound on. I know, not helpful with the hand signals, huh? Sorry. Yeah, sometimes I have that where you can't hear the sound and there's a little megaphone in the bottom and you just need to click it. Okay. Anyway, so we've got the Eyelet Blooms die. This is the April product of the month. You can add this on to your shopping cart when you purchase $75. Then this becomes available to you for $5, and that's here in the US. And while we're talking about that, shopping carts, today and tomorrow, you will earn double rewards on any purchase over $20 in my online store. So normally when you purchase $20, you earn 10%, but today and tomorrow, you get double rewards. So 20% will go to your rewards. Now, here's the caveat. You must have opted in for Stampin' Rewards. And if you haven't already done that, there should be a little bar saying that asking you to do so when you create your account, your online account, or you can go into your profile and add that, click the little button to opt in. Okay, good. I'm glad you're good now, Tracy. All right. So again, the product of the month for April is the Eyelet Blooms die, and we will be using this today. This is what it looks like when it cuts out. This is an embossed piece where I used a silicone mat so that it wouldn't cut. And then we're going to be using the beautifully celebrated dies. These are in stock and still available. I checked today. My inside sentiment comes from Prayers and Promises. And we'll be using that. I've already stamped it, but I did want to show you where this comes from. Okay, so I've had a couple of friends who have lost their dads in the past couple of weeks. So I've made a couple of sympathy cards, and so that's what we'll be doing tonight. All right, and then one of the other stamp sets that we'll be using is the Notes of Spring, and this was the March not online exclusive, March product of the month. It is still available. So if you haven't already received it and you would like to, again, you just place a $75 order in my online store and then you add this on. And in the next 2 days, you'll get double rewards for that. So you can only get one of each item. So if you haven't already picked that up, it's still available to you. If you want both the Notes of Spring and the Eyelet Blooms dies, you must place 2 separate $75 orders in order to add them on. Okay, I hope that is clear as mud. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. This is our color palette. There's a lot of neutrals because we're going to do some outline stamping and some inside stamping and use these for coloring. So we've got crumb cake, pecan pie, early espresso, smoky slate, basic gray, balmy blue, mossy meadow, and garden green. Okay, so let's go ahead and set those aside. And let's bring in some pieces. So our card base is Early Espresso, and this is a half sheet of cardstock, of A2 cardstock, or letter size cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 11, and I've pre-scored that at 5 1/2. And so we're going to have a landscape card. And then you'll need a scrap piece of basic beige for the sentiment. I've taken willow white for this, and I've cut it out using the beautifully celebrated dies, and I've cut this with the third from the largest. And I actually cut 2 just in case I mess up, but you only need 1 because you won't mess up. And then I've cut the second to the largest die here with the Wood Grain Wonder paper that was released with the March online exclusives. Okay, so you'll need 1 of those. And then I'm going to grab that wood grain paper just in case you haven't seen it. It's kind of a unique paper for Stampin' Up! Because you still get your 12 sheets of paper and you still get the double-sided designs, but the colorway is a little bit different because you've got dark and light on this piece. You've got pecan pie and crumb cake on this piece. But then you also have a crumb cake that has a basic beige on the back, much like this piece. Okay, so these pieces really, they're different on one side and the same on the other. And that's the way it is throughout this pack of paper. Okay, so you actually get more sheets of the colors than you would think. Okay, let's set that aside. And let's go ahead and talk about the Eyelet Blooms die. Okay, so let's pull this out. I've taken a piece of basic beige, and this you want to cut this to start with for this card, and probably for most cards, 4 by 6. Okay, so if you cut this at 4 by 6, this isn't 4 by 6 right now, but I'm going to show you why you want to do that. Okay, so I reran this, I ran it through. So I wanted to show you. I put that on and I ran it through my die cut machine with a regular die cut sandwich. Okay, then this really sticks into the die. So if you do a 4 by 6, you get this lip so you can pull that out easily. Well, we don't want to do that quite yet. You want to take your die with the paper. I'm using the attachment to the Take Your Pick tool. It's the brush attachment, and it comes with this. It actually comes with 2 of these little foamy pads. And then in order to get these out, you just want to rub this across the back, and that'll take most of those little eyelets out for you. Now you can drop this on your glass mat, and a lot will pop out. I like to do both sides with my brush here. Okay, so you just keep going over that, and most of it will come out. And then when you're ready, then you can take this lip, and let me show you why you want to do that, because here you can't hardly get to this, and there's so much, it's stuck pretty hard. Okay, it's really difficult to get off. But if you add this little lip and do a 4 by 6, then you can take this and gently pull that up. Okay, so much easier to do that. Trust me on this. Okay, and then because it's 4 by 6, you've got this little lip here, so you just trim this edge and then cut this down to 5 1/4, and then you'll have a piece left over to put on the inside of your card. So let's grab that piece and I'll show you. What did I do with that piece? Oh, here it is. So then I just took and glued that to a piece of early espresso for the inside of my card. And that way you can carry over the eyelet from the front to the inside. And that's the easiest way to do that. You do not want to put just a single little piece of paper in the eyelet die. I tried that, just do like 3/4 of an inch. If you don't run it all the way past the bottom, I mean, you could do the 3/4 of an inch, but make sure it's by 6 so that it will go all the way and then you can lift it up. Otherwise, you're going to have a really tough time getting that small piece off of this die. Okay, just a little trick there I wanted you to know about. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and set that aside because we don't need that for the moment. And then I've already cut this down 4 by 5 1/4. And we don't need to do anything with this other than this. So we're going to go ahead and put this on. And I'm going to show you how I did it, minus Summer Kitty's little fur hair there. Shedding season, of course. So I took and used, I'm gonna have that center mostly covered. So I'm just gonna put some Stampin' Seal here in the center, because that's not gonna matter. And then I'm just gonna take on these little points here at the edges where there's no openings. And in the very corner, I'm just going to dab on some glue. Just little dots. Okay? Where there's no openings. And then I won't have to worry about the glue seeping through. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go ahead and add this to our card base. And we'll just lay that down. Okay. All right. So that's our card front at the moment. And this isn't going to matter. I've got a little dot here. That doesn't matter. I'm going to cover this up. So I just made sure that all my dots were pushed out where my piece will be open. Okay, because this is going to cover a good share. All right, so let's go ahead and do our stamping. We're going to bring in our beautifully celebrated die. And I'm going to make sure this is level on my glass mat. I'm lining up these two little straight points here with a straight edge there. Okay. And we're going to bring in the little bunny outline and the deer outline from the Notes of Spring. Okay. So we're going to start with basic gray and smoky slate for our bunny, and early espresso and pecan pie for our deer. So bunny first, because I need to know where to place my bunny or my deer based on where I put my bunny. Okay, let me get this down on a straight line there. And then I'm going to put this down here like this. And done with that. Then we'll move to early espresso for our deer. And I'm going to put my little deer right down here, like so, with the early espresso. Okay. Now, we're going to fill these in. And to do that, I'm going to bring in my silicone mat here. I'm going to take my smoky slate for my bunny. I'm going to get some scrap paper. So let's bring our scrap paper in. I've got my little bunny silhouette from Notes of Spring. I'm going to ink this up in smoky slate. Okay. And then I'm going to very quickly tap down. I'm not going to go like this. That lets too much ink come off. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to give it a quick press. And then I'm going to put it on my bunny here. Ooh, let me move this out of the way. Got to get away from the camera for a sec so I can get my placement in here and try to line that up. Okay. So now that gives me a light coat of the smoky slate, but not too light by doing it how I did. Okay. And then we're going to take pecan pie for the deer. And I've got this. And we're just going to ink this up in pecan pie. We're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to give that a good inking. Quick. And then I'm going to place that down there. And now I've got this coating on my deer.
Good evening, ladies.
That was Caitlin. Okay, so now let me show you um, why I did that the way I did. Here's a little trick for you. Okay, so this deer here, this is with early espresso and the full strength pecan pie. This deer is done with the early espresso outline and the way I just showed you with a quick light stamp off. And this is what you get when it's all dry. This one over here on the right, this is when you press fully and take that ink off on the first generation and then make it a full second generation. So by stamping that one, like I showed you how I stamped on the bunny, this is what it looks like for the deer. Okay. So you can actually get 3 hues of the pecan pie by doing what I just showed you. Okay, so you can get the full strength, you can get the second generation, or you can get the mid-range between the first and second with a quick light stamp off. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so we've got that. Now, ahead of time, I cut some masks from the Notes of Spring. I stamped on the Stampin' Up! Masking paper, and then I fussy cut out our little bunny. And we're going to put him right there. And I did the same thing with the deer. So we're just going to put that down. I got to get that a little bit further up. Remember, when you cut your mask, you want to cut off the outline. In this case, this has a large outline, and so I was able to leave the outline because the outline is so thick. All right, so you just want to make sure that you can mostly see the stamping on the outside of your mask. Okay, so now we're going to take this and we're going to bring in some crumb cake and some balmy blue ink. I'm going to start with my crumb cake. I'm going to ink up my blending brush. And I'm going to make it look like these animals are sitting on some ground here. Okay. I don't want it to be a stark white background. Okay, so we've got that. And you can go as dark or as light as you would like. And then we're going to bring in the balmy blue. And I'm going to ink that up with my blending brush. And then I'm going to put in some blue for the sky. Again, I don't want a stark white background. So we're just going to put in that sky. All right. Now leave your masks on here. And let's clean that up so we don't end up with that all over our white. And I got a little bit of adhesive there. I love this glass mat because if you get a little bit of adhesive on it, you just wipe it off. Okay. Whoa. Fumble fingers. Okay. All right. So now we've got this. I'm going to bring back in that. No, I'm not. This time we're going to bring in our stamp positioner tool. And I'm going to put this down here. And again, I'm going to line it up on a straight edge for those two bottom corners, just so I know that that is level. All right. Remember, I've still got my masks on. I'll place on my magnets. And then I'm going to grab my tree from the Loveliest tree. So I've got this, and this is a red rubber. So I can't really see through it, but I'm going to go ahead and put this. I want it to be pretty much at the top and from side to side here. I want it to go pretty much to the top of that die cut, okay? And to be straight. I want it to be straight. Yeah, I think we're good there. I think that'll be good. Okay, so then I'm going to take my positioning plate, got the Stampin' Up! Logo up so I can read it, and then I'm just going to push that down. There's not much area between the red rubber stamp and the paper, but it doesn't sit right on it. So we're going to make sure that we have that positioned. And then we're going to bring in the, let's start with Garden Green. Let's start with Garden Green. I'm going to bring in the Garden Green ink and a Garden Green sponge dauber. And I'm going to ink up my tree with my sponge dauber. But I'm going to avoid the trunk if I can. Okay. I'm just going to add some ink on there. And then there's a little bit of grass here, so I'm going to add a little bit down there. Okay. So now I've got that. Now let's bring in some Mossy Meadow ink. And again, our sponge dauber. And then I'm just going to dot on here. And that'll just give it some texture. Okay, and then we're going to go for Early Espresso. Oh, I grabbed the wrong sponge dauber, you guys. I don't know why I grabbed Balmy Blue, but hang on, let me make sure I'm doing this the right way so I don't spill these out and grab the Early Espresso. Sorry about that. I thought I had that all ready to go. Then I'm just going to take my Early Espresso ink and I'm going to go in with my sponge dauber. And notice how I started with the lightest color and I'm moving to the darkest. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to re-moisten that ink by picking this up and huffing on it with my breath. And then I'm going to put this down. And I'm going to give it a good press. Making sure I hit all of those areas. And now I've got this. Okay, so I'll take my little take your pick tool here and lift that up. And then we'll get this out of our way. Make sure we put our magnets back on so we don't lose those. Trust me, that can happen. Okay, now we're ready for the reveal. All right. So now we can take the spatula end of our Take Your Pick tool. And I'm just going to go under here and grab an ear and give that a slight little lift and put that spatula right underneath there. And then I'm going to lift that off, and I'll save that mask for another time. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with my bunny. And then we'll pull that mask off. Okay, now I want to take some light petal pink here. Take my Stampin' Blend, and I'm just going to put a little bit of light petal pink right there and on the tip of his nose. And there is our image. Okay, so now we can take and add this piece to our wood grain piece. And I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal on there. Set this up so it's nice and straight on the line again. And then we'll put this down. Try to center that up with an even border. Okay. Then we're going to add this with some Stampin' Dimensionals, because we have to use Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay. We'll remove those release paper backings. And I'm going to set that on here. Try to make sure that's straight. And then we'll do the sentiment. Okay. So for the sentiment, we're using Sending Heartfelt Sympathy. And again, I'm going to bring back in my Stamp Positioner tool. Okay. This Stamp Positioner tool will be available in the catalog coming out on May 5th. I'm going to take this piece of basic beige cardstock, and I'm going to place it on here. Okay, like so. I'm going to add my magnets, and then I'm going to take my sentiment. I'm going to set this on here. Get that so it looks straight. And then I'm going to place my little arm on top, and I'm going to give this a little tap at the side to make sure it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to push down on that and pick up my stamp. Take my early espresso and ink that up. And again, I'm going to make sure that's nice and straight. Okay, I want that to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to add more ink. Put that down. And then I've got that nice and solid. I'm going to clean my stamp. Whoops. My thing just fell on the floor. Okay, so we've got that. And then we're going to ink this up one more time, but this time we're going to ink it with the Versamark ink. Okay, so I'm going to give that a really good inking with the Versamark. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and take my embossing buddy and put this on here. And then I'm going to, that'll just prevent any strays, any stray ink powder. We're using clear, so it probably doesn't matter that much anyway. I'm going to hold that for about a count of 5. Let's make sure that's good and inked. Okay, that doesn't want to come off. Let's pick this up. That's okay. We don't need it to come off at the moment. And then we're going to bring in our embossing tray and our clear ink powder. And then we're going to heat set this. Using our heat tool. Oh, sorry. Should show you what's going on there. Okay. And now we have a clear embossed sentiment that looks like it's early espresso. All right, and then we're going to hand cut that out, and we're going to have this. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this to our card. Get these things out of our way. And I'm going to put this up here in the corner like so. So I just want to put some minis, use some mini glue dots. I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to take a piece from my minis, actually, and we're going to put that on. And then we'll go ahead and add some Stampin' Seal. Remove that backing. And we'll place this up here, like so. And by putting those dimensionals there, that keeps it at the same level as the beautifully celebrated die cuts. Okay, so the final touch here is to add some gems. And again, I looked to the last chance list. These were still in stock earlier today, and they're discounted, and everybody should have brass butterflies. These go with just about every card. And we're going to take one of the larger ones, and I'm going to put this up here. Butterflies signify change, so they seemed appropriate for a sympathy card to me. And then took a small one, and I'm going to take another large one, and I'm going to put it over here. Okay, and that's a little bit too straight, for my liking here. So let's move it up a bit, maybe back a bit. There we go. Let's do that. Okay, Then when I'm happy, I'll just give those a good press. We'll add the inside of our card. And then this one is ready to go. It will be ready to go in the mail. Okay, so again, I took that 3/4 inch strip of early espresso with a 1/2 inch of the Eyelet Blooms. And as you grieve, may your memories comfort you, your faith strengthen you, and may hope heal your heart. That's from Prayers and Promises. That's a current stamp set. And then we'll just add that to the inside of our card here. And then I just stamped a deer on the envelope to finish it all off and tie everything together. Okay, I hope you like that. Thanks so much. All right, you guys, I will be back on Tuesday night at 7 on Facebook. Hope to see you there. And if not, I'll be back here next Thursday again at 7 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Don't forget about the double rewards today and tomorrow. And we'll see you soon. Check out my online store. Good night.